All right, so we are back, and now we are going to do class 2, exercise 8. Class 2, exercise 8. And this one is a little bit more involved. And this is what the exercise comes out to be. It basically says to create a login that can handle the salts, tables, and everything else that we've been using and learning up to so far. So in the previous exercise, in exercise 6, we created an add user. So we were able to add a user with all the new salts and everything else, and that's great. Now they're saying you have that, but now create a login page that will also use the salting mechanism and the PBKDF2, the PBKDF2. So it needs to accept the username and password just like it does today, but then it also needs to compute the salt. It needs to create the PB KDF2 hash out of it and compare with what comes from the user table. And if they match, then to log somebody in. So essentially, the login process needs to be redone. Well, I didn't want to rewrite the login process or make new files. I was just going to fix the current uh, files to have that particular capability. So I was basically going to improve the current login files. And so I made a task list for myself here. I said, first of all, find the login pages. I don't remember which ones they are. I think they're login web app, HTML and PHP. Then I was going to, uh, whatever I pull from the database, I assumed was going to be okay and salted and have the correct hash. So I didn't have to worry about that. But I did have to go get the salt for a given user from the database because the current application doesn't have that, so I'd have to go get that. Then I was going to compute the hash for the current for the what was passed in from the request, just like we did in exercise 6. So that should be easy because I'll just kind of learn from that. And then I was going to compare like before, and then I was going to do the matching like before. And these two should be easy because I don't want to change that. Like if the matches, if the hash from the database plus the hash that I computed with the salt is the same, then accept and log in. But I also realized that I needed to add some more users because now I have users of two different kinds. So I have users with regular passwords and users with hash passwords. So if you look here, I have admin is no longer going to work to log in if I modify this. So I have to add a few more. I have to add a few more users, and so that's what I did. So I'm going to walk you through what I did. I'm going to pretty much walk you backwards because I first fixed this uh, number 6 and 7 here. So let's go through modify the add users to make it a little bit more interesting because what was happening is I was not getting the regular user business and that was a pain, and I was not getting the first name and last name. So they were just literally sticking in a username and a password or a hash, and I needed a couple more things. So I fixed that first. So if I go here, I go into the add user and to the add user HTML, and to the add user HTML, I added only two fields, first name and last name, because obviously whoever comes in is going to be a regular user. I'll promote them later, but I just needed at least a first user, first name and last name. And then in the PHP, the processor for that, I made these changes here in this area. And I will stop for a second so you can freeze the video, and then I'll walk you through what I did. So I pulled the first name, last name from the request, from the post request. I also made a variable called regular user because everybody's going to be a regular user. And all I did was added a few more. So I left username and hash here like it was. Those are the only two original there. And I add, so if you see here, username and hash was the original. I left them in here, but I added first name and last name. And I added the user type at the end. That's it. And I changed this as well, obviously, to have 5 parameters instead of 2 parameters. I used to pass in 2 parameters. I added 5 parameters. So this line corresponds with this line. So from going from 2 parameters to 5 parameters, that's it. And so now these are saved. So now let's see how they work, right? And we're going to go in here and add. So we're going to add a user. So again, 2 more fields. We're going to say Abby Jones, A Jones, and password is going to be ABCD 1 2 3 4. Okay, add user. And yes, this works just like before. It's not very pretty, but it works. And if I look in my database, let's see if I have a new user. And sure enough, Abby Jones got added. Looks beautiful. There's no email and everything else, but it is a regular user. And it's user ID 6 and salts. So this user 6 also has a salt in the database. So yay, I took advantage of that. Done and done. So I'm going to go back here and call this one done. Whoops, sorry. So this is done and this is done. So 6 and 7 are done. I'm going to come back to 5 and 6, but now I go back. Let's go back at the beginning and fix the login pages. So to make sure that they use the same exact mechanism, so I can actually log in as Abby Jones, so A Jones that I just created, right? So if I go in, I'm going to look at web HTML. Nothing had to change here. Well, actually, this did have to change. This should be a post here, but that's a minor fix. And then nothing else had to change here. In fact, even get is fine. Not secure, but it would work. And then here in the login.web app, I've only changed very, very, very little. I left everything else the same except for this area here. Actually, these are the lines at all, because the comparison with the password from the database and the password that got passed in from the request stays the same. Authentication successful or authentication fails. So that all stays the same. The only thing I did is I wrote a function to go get the user salt, because whatever username you give me, like Abby in this case, I have to go get the salt for Abby to see if I can actually compute it. And then I actually have to compute the hashed PBKDF password. And I was going to use the exact same number of iterations as before, so I defined that here. And I used the password that was given to me, plus the user salt that I retrieve from the database, and I just overwrite whatever got passed in as password, and I test it. So that's it. Now in get user salt is also so this, I'm going to freeze it for a second, and this is literally the only change in this particular file if you need to make it yourself. And then in the DB functions, I added this get user salt. So get user salt looks exactly like this. And I defined a username, password, and salt. Those are the 3 things that I want from the database. We already wrote this query, this nice long query here. It's the exact same query that we used before in one of the exercises to do the join. Uses the CIS. I call this query. And then I bind the parameters, the username. I execute the query. And the results, I bind the results from the query back to username, password, and salt. Username, password, and salt. And if the salt is not empty, then I actually return the salt. Otherwise, I just return null. So this query, just so you can look at it, it's exactly the same. Select username, salt, copied exactly as is from one of the exercises. I only added this at the end to make it a parametric query, and and then this username, because I only want to get the salt for one specific username. So that's it. This is your function for get user salt. And now for the moment of truth. Let's see if we can actually log in as Abby. Login. A Jones. A B C D 1 2 3 4. Wait for it. Is it gonna work? Yes, it worked. Ta-da! Okay, so now I have completed all the tasks in this particular exercise. I looked at the web pages. I got the salt from the database with that extra function I created. I computed the hash just like in exercise 6, and I left the comparison and the authentication exactly the same, no change there. That is exercise number 8. By the way, I think you just got for free part of exercise 9, which is the graded exercise. We'll get to that in just a minute. So hopefully that helps. Thank you very much.